to say, but I also want to just highlight some of the things that we've done very briefly. We've appointed a network of women focal point in the person of Francola John. And she has been instrumental in the promotion of the development of a publication called Indano. I hope that you're familiar with it. You've received a copy of it. And I encourage you to go to our website. We have been sending it out by our constant contact email. And there is an edition which will be coming out shortly. And one of our guest speakers, Dr. Myers Hamilton from Jamaica, is featured in article in publication number 2. So we encourage you to read that. And the intention is for that monthly publication to highlight women in the ICT sector within the Caribbean as we prepare for the World Radio Conference this year. We also have, well, this webinar today actually is one of the things that we committed to doing in pursuit of this objective. And I'm pleased that we're able to execute this today. This is one of the commitments that we've made for 2023. What are we to do for the upcoming World Radio Conference? We are very much going to focus on those resolutions in particular that focus on gender issues. We intend to review and explain those to our member states in all of our preparatory meetings coming up. In fact, we have an executive council meeting this month. And we will also ensure, or at least encourage our member states to ensure that women are included in their delegations as we lead up to WRC. And finally, we intend to have a technical workshop incorporating other small island developing states with whom we're trying to build a coalition globally. Technical workshop with our traditional partners such as Caribnol, the US Telecoms Training Institute. I think we can incorporate some of the issues on the agenda of the Spectrum Management Task Force as part of the technical training. And this will be sometime in July, around the end of July, we'll be hosting this technical workshop for women, specifically on topics that are relevant to the upcoming World Radio Conference. So I know that's not enough, but it's a start, and you have my commitment as Secretary General and commitment of the CTU as well to promote the gender equality and inclusion within the ICT sector. So without further ado, I want to welcome also someone that I consider to be a mentor, a friend, a well-respected professional in the industry. Really happy to collaborate with her every time, and that is Dr. Kim Maliliu, Deputy Chair of the Telecoms Authority of Trinidad and Tobago and Vice Chair of the Network of Women in ITU.
Thank you so much, Secretary. Thank you. So, on behalf of the Network of Women in the International Telecommunication Union Development Sector, now in ITUD, I am thrilled to welcome participants to the Caribbean Telecommunication Union's webinar, Empowering Women, Promoting Gender Equality and Creating Opportunities. It is fitting that we recognize International Women's Day as there is need for stewardship of our sector's technologies, telecommunications and ICT, and for all who create and use them. It is a fact that there are gender asymmetries in both the creation and the use of ICT, and it is widely held that these are unacceptable and at the same time avoidable. Yes, avoidable. This very morning, our own Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General of the ITU, recalled the FIFA World Cup 2020 campaign tagline, "Impossible is nothing." So how do we create and correct for how do we correct for existing asymmetries in ICT product creation and use and ensure that our digital world is safe for all? Well, we do our part as women and men within our spheres of influence that must collectively span the most modest of communities of potential users and creators to the most sophisticated, and as well include decision makers at all levels. We must exert our influence in our individual and organizational ways to close the gender-digital divide, to encourage and enable all persons, regardless of gender, to use and create safe digital products, and to do so to realize their personal aspirations and potential, and at the same time, those of all others on the planet. What are some specific ways we can do this? We must influence the development and implementation of purposeful policies, programs, and practices that promote gender equality and ensure the availability of learning and livelihood opportunities at all levels too, among other things. Ensure a continuous and potent stream of telecom and ICT skills. We must, of course, lead by example. As we speak, the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, taking place this year in New York from the 6th to the 17th of March, is calling for greater collaboration and cooperation to close the gender digital divide. The Caribbean and the Americas region at large are well placed to actively participate in such collaboration and cooperation through our organizations, channels, and initiatives with national, sub-regional, and regional scope and representation. And this is why I am so thrilled today to welcome a very special lineup of speakers from such organizations and initiatives. Our panelists represent the Inter-American Telecommunication Commission, CITEL, the Caribbean Association of National Telecommunications Organizations, CANTO, a regulator, national regulator, the Spectrum Management Authority, SMA, of Jamaica, and my sister network, the Network of Women in ITU's radio sector, now for WRC. A hearty welcome to these icons of strength, commitment, and grace who will share perspectives, experience, opportunities, and recommendations for promoting gender equality and creating opportunities from entirely different organizational perspectives, all critical to the development and health of the telecommunications and ICT sectors. Before our panel, I have the pleasure of introducing our featured speaker and then handing over to Deputy Secretary General of the CTU, Nigel Casimir, who will moderate today's session. So now for the main event. We are so very happy that Thais Nifn-Naga will deliver our feature address today. Thais joined Meta in August 2022 as a Safety Policy Manager for LATAM. Previously, she was head of the International Affairs at Anatel. That's of course, the telecommunications regulator in Brazil. She holds a degree in law from the Federal University of Minas Gerais, UFMG, a master's degree in international relations from the University of Brasilia, UNB, and a master's degree in international public administration from the Institute of Political Science Studies in Paris. Between 2016 and 17, she worked as a digital economy consultant at the OECD, where she collaborated in the accession processes of Lithuania and Costa Rica to the organization. From 2012 to 14, she served as deputy head of international affairs at the General Secretariat of the Presidency of the Republic. From March 2021 to 2022, Thais was a member of the affiliate program of the Future Society, TFS, a think tank focused on developing projects to advance the responsible adoption of artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies. No better to address us today than Thais. Thais, handing over to you.
So thank you very much, Kim. And first of all, I'd like to thank the Caribbean Telecommunication Union for this invitation. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today and to speak a little bit about my background and opportunities for women in this very special day when we celebrate the International Women's Day. So thank you very much. And I can see some familiar faces here. I know Dr. Kim from the ITU, also Miss Jennifer, who is also here sharing this panel with me. So it's a big pleasure for me to be here with you today. Now wearing my Meta hat. Before that, as Dr. Kim has mentioned to you, I was working for the telecom regulator in Brazil, and I had the opportunity to meet incredible women at the ITU and CITEL. And well, this is just the beginning of a network of women taking leadership roles in important international organizations. So first of all, I will not repeat my CV here because Dr. Kim has already done that and introduced my background for you. And I'd like to speak very straightforward to you about this experience I have acquired from working at a government, also in an international organization, and now in the private sector. I think that the main point here is to share with you that achieving this objective of bringing more women into ICT sector and leadership roles, it's not one solution fits all. We must have a multi-stakeholder approach for us to advance in this area. So it is necessary to include more women in policy designing. It is necessary to bring more women to STEM careers. So we need to invest more in digital literacy from the beginning with children, with teenagers, and encourage them to join those careers. And it's also important to develop programs and initiatives focused on women, not only women, but also other minority groups. This is the only way where we can have people really empowered to be part of a solution and not only to try to do some remedy to the gender gap that is already there. So we need to have this all sector approach so we can advance in that. So just to give you a few examples, while working for the government in Brazil, we did a huge effort, not only internally, but also externally, to bring this topic to the spotlight. So I'd like to mention here again, Dr. Kim has already done that, but the network of women of the ITU is a very emblematic step. So it was a joint effort, not only from the ITU, but also from the countries to make up and to bring force to this group of women and to put this topic in the agenda of the big conferences of the ITU, because it drives a very important message for everyone who's there, especially the high-level administration of organizations and industry that are there. It's a message saying that women are there, we are part of this ecosystem, and we don't want to be only the spectator of these policies that are being developed here. We want to take part of designing these policies, and this is the only way when we can have a standpoint of women into the policies and recommendations that are being designed there by consensus. So I think this is one of the most emblematic achievements, recent achievements, and it's not the only one. Another thing that is important is governments to support and to encourage partnerships, not only with other governments, but also with civil society, associations, and of course, private sector to develop programs specifically for women. And a good example of that is the Girls in ICT Day, which is a celebration in which the ITU encourages countries and also associations in private sector to bring their own activities and to spotlight their own programs and initiatives in a very special day every April every year. So it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing event that celebrates the efforts of many different stakeholders in promoting the participation of women in ICT ecosystem, and especially young women. And now speaking a little bit more about internal activities, I think another example I'd like to share with you is one of the greatest examples I can give to you that we did in the Brazilian government in the past years. So we developed internally in Anatel a group focused on bringing together women to give mentorship courses specifically for women there, and also other activities targeting minorities, not only women, but also other groups. So it's another effort that internally, not only governmental administration, but also companies, they can do. And normally this kind of activities, they show great results into bringing more women into the leadership roles. So it was in Anatel, it was the creation of a permanent group that was that had a mandate to bring up all these initiatives and to promote them internally, to encourage women to be more participant and active in their everyday tasks, but also to achieve leadership roles. And after one year of program, we achieved very good results. Just for you to have an example on how we need this kind of activities to be permanent in Anatel, and I think that in other governmental bodies is not different. About 70 to 75% of the workforce is men, and only 25%, about 25% is women. So it's a photograph of a reality that we want and we will change, hopefully, in a short time. So, as I was saying before, it's a multi-stakeholder approach, and also it needs to be achieving different areas, not only encouraging young people to join those careers in STEM careers, but also to establish permanent programs to give women the opportunity to be in contact with these leaderships and bring them into filling those important roles, and also to bring women to develop the policies, the programs, the activities, and all sorts of other things that are designed for implementing and for implementing the policies. And now speaking more recently from my experience in Meta. In Meta is a good example of a company in the private sector that internally promotes very much the inclusion of women and other minority groups. So a good example I can share with you from my company is the recruiting process. So from the moment that a role is available and the recruiters start to look for the right profiles to fill in those roles, there is a specific look for equality into the workforce. So from the beginning, the recruiters, they do want the person not only to be the right profile technically, but also to be the right profile into bringing more equality to the workforce. And that's the result is absolutely amazing. In Meta, we can see that minority groups, they do have a voice there. We can see a more balanced a workforce, not only in the gender aspect. So we have lots of about 50% of men and women, but also other minority groups, more than I ever see in the other places I have worked before. And well, I don't want to advance much more in the time, so I just wanted to share with you a little bit of my experience from these different places I have worked until now. And I'd like to hear a little bit more from you, and also from the amazing initiatives we have in the ITU that I think that Jennifer will share with you, and also in CITEL, Maria Celeste, and also in the regulator. And well, so I give the floor back to you, Kim. And once more, thank you very much for this invitation, and I hope we can exchange a little bit later when having our debate. I'll be very happy to respond to your questions and to exchange more with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thais. So handing over to Nigel, who will moderate the rest of the session.
Yes, thank you very much, Kim. I just would like to express my own greetings to all the women within earshot for celebration of this International Women's Day. And I want to say, when I joined engineering at the University of the West Indies, well, several decades ago now, there were very few women, in fact, in that group. And I asked Dr. Kim this morning for some current statistics on the mix of men and women in engineering at the university. And I'm happy to report that the percentage of women has grown by about 20 times since I was there. The bad news is, though, that in my time it was more like 1%, and now it's still only about 20%. So there is still some way to go there. But even to get it to 20%, I'm sure that some things have happened, some initiatives have been taken. And what we want to do right now in this panel is to hear from certain of the leading women in the ICT industry from our region in particular, as to what really is going on in their own institutions related to promotion of gender equality, equity, parity, and so on. So we are expanding from what Thais just did to include 4 more perspectives. One from Ms. Jennifer Manna, who is a Senior Vice President of Regulatory Affairs of EchoStar Corporation. And most notably, she is the co-chair of the Network of Women for the World Radio Communication Conference within CITEL. We'll also hear from Ms. Disha Clifford, who's a director at Canto. Dr. Maria Myers-Hamilton, Managing Director of the Spectrum Management Authority of Jamaica, and Ms. Maria Celeste Fuenmayor, who is a telecom specialist at CITEL. So they will talk on specific, or they will present and discuss some specific initiatives within their own organizations for space. And I'll first ask Ms. Jennifer Manna to address us, her topic, promoting gender equality in preparation for the WRC 23. So Jennifer, over to you, please.
So thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me today. It's my pleasure. And I appreciate that. So let me start by saying I've been involved in the ITU since the early 90s. And one of the things that has been, especially in the radio communication sector in specific, and one of the things that was most notable when I went to my first WRC in 1995, I was only 2 years of age, of course, was that there were so few women. And I learned subsequently that there were 18% women who were actually at the meeting. In 2015 was the first WRC where we really started to focus on women. And that was led by an initiative by women from CTEL. So I am very proud to be of the CTEL region. I think we have a great group. And we once again looked around, and even though it had been 20 years since I started at the ITUR, we were still at only 18% women. And that really led to the start of having a network of women event. And in 2019, in the period between 2015 and 19, we did it with some study groups. And now we have a series of women chairs across the globe who meet together to try and promote this with folks in different regions. I feel blessed because CTEL is an amazing region where we have incredible women leaders. And just to give you an example, we have there's only been, first off, the head of the ITU right now is Doreen Bogdan Martin, who comes from our region, which is fantastic. The one woman and broke the glass ceiling this year when she became the first woman Secretary General of the ITU in the very long history. There's only been one woman head of the World Radio Conference chair, and that is Dr. Veena Rawat from Canada. And there's only been one woman head of the conference preparatory meetings, and that is Cindy Cook from Canada. So we're well represented, though I wish we had a little more diversity in our leadership, but I do believe we're getting there. And I know at the CPM, one of our working group chairs is from Brazil. So that's great. And we're seeing more and more diversity. But I think the biggest thing we've been doing is trying to offer training and mentoring and sponsorship. And so one of the things we have put together is a CTEL commits for WRC 23. And I know Dr. Mailu has promoted this very far and wide in CTU as well as in CTEL. And what we are doing is offering a series of trainings on everything from how to become a leader. Dr. Veena Rawat is actually hosting some small sessions on that, as well as training on how to do certain things at the ITU, how to work. I mean, the process is very complex. So I think by doing this and encouraging, and one of the things I actually wrote a note today to CTEL is we're about to pick our chairs. The regions are about to recommend to the management team at the ITU what the structure of the conference would look like, and to try and make sure there's equity. I mean, I think the theme of this International Women's Day is fantastic. It's equity, and really having CTEL and the CTU working together to bring forward a more equitable distribution of leaders at the WRC that reflect gender diversity would be fantastic in my view. And we're working towards having adopted at the WRC, at the Radio Assembly before this year's WRC, a resolution on gender equality. The radio communication sector is the only sector of the ITU that doesn't have a gender diversity resolution today. So I look forward to our discussion, and I won't take up any more of my time, but hopefully that answers your question.
If I might ask a specific question, though, you are in the radio communication sector. Would you just say that fostering more greater involvement of women in the radio communication sector is more difficult in the radio communication as opposed to other sectors of ITU?
Yes. And I think one, it's not, I hate to say this, I'm a lawyer, not an engineer by training, unlike my colleagues, Kim and Maria and others. And I think the other sectors tend to have maybe less technical people participating. And I think one of the problems has been there aren't as many women in STEM who are able, and I think it's harder to break through as a woman. One of the things we were promoting quite heavily during the pandemic was, and actually I heard a phenomenal statistic this morning. I was on a different panel, and in the UAE, there's 60 to 70% of the engineering students in their universities are women. That's just phenomenal and great. But I don't know that we're there yet everywhere. And I don't know that we're there that across the CETEL region. And so you're still having people break in, and it's how do you change how you select people to be delegates? And we were talking this morning a little bit about maybe the qualities that are looked at when governments and companies are looking at who they're going to send, really needs to change so that it is there's more women looking at who are we selecting, not just men. And the question is, I think, how do you get these women accepted? And one of the things we tried to push, and I'm from the United States and the US, was we talked to the FCC and said, well, can you get more young people involved, because you're doing things virtually, so you don't have the travel budget. And I think that's one of the benefits we're going to see from hybrid, is that perhaps because people will be able to participate more. Right now it's very hard. Every country's tight on travel. So how do you get younger new people into things? So as more and more women enter the STEM fields, I'm hoping that we'll see that change. But as I said, in 20 years, I did not see a change in the percentage. And that just floors me to this day.
Yes, indeed, that is sobering. And I think part of the challenge is, as you said, the actual topic itself. So, okay, let's continue and let Ms. Disha Clifford, who is the director at Canto, that's our operator organization, the telecoms operators and vendors in the industry, represented through Canto. Disha, your initial thoughts about promoting gender equality in Canto? Please go ahead.
First of all, thank you to the CTU for extending this invitation to Canto. We are very pleased to be here. We worked with the CTU on a large number of significant initiatives, and this would be chief among them. I'm very excited to share what Canto has been up to in this space. I think anybody who knows anything about Canto would probably be familiar with some of the things that we've done. If you're not familiar with Canto, it may not seem immediately like a natural fit. However, we have, I think, been able to do quite a bit of work. It's something we feel very strongly about. On some level, it's a cause that's personal to us, given the fact that we have strong female leadership within our organization. The need for us to do something arose in a very organic way, much like Jennifer's story, from childhood days or her young days, attending events and noticing a big disparity in terms of representation of the genders. We never really had any formal committees or organized thoughts on this matter, but in a very organic way, from attending events, being present at government events and different types of industry events, we observed certain things, and it started certain conversations within Canto. And we decided that this was something that we were going to tackle and front on. So I'm looking forward to just sharing some of our work with the audience.
Okay, well, you can go ahead.
Can I?
Yeah, you can.
So, let's just share my screen. Okay, so everyone see my screen? Great.
Yes.
So first of all, who we are a non-profit organization. So we're not government, we're not an operator. We are a registered nonprofit, and we have a membership of 135 organizations across the ICT space. We are operators among us, we have regulators among us, we have suppliers among us. And we basically we see ourselves as leading and shaping the conversation about ICT, anything relating to ICT in the region. And how the organization is structured, there's a membership. And by virtue of the bylaws, the membership elects a board of directors, and that board of directors, it directs the policy strategy of the organization. And that policy strategy is then put into effect by a very small team, which is headquartered in Trinidad. So we have all the major players among our membership. We have the Digicels, the Cable and Wireless, Liberty, Cable Bahamas, Talisker, TSCD, CITAR, and we have a lot of key vendors in the ICT ecosystem among our membership as well. What do? As I said, we lead the conversation on anything relating to ICT. We have two key events that we hold annually. Our July annual conference and exhibition is very popular. The exhibition component is where we provide a platform for vendors to showcase their wares. We kind of feel like we are like the Caribbean version of GSMA. At least certainly that's what we aspire to be. In terms of our exhibition, we have a very robust showing from all our vendors who are keen to influence some of the decision makers in the room and basically tell people what they're excited about in terms of technology. But then there's the regulatory and the policy side of things, where our conference agenda is very carefully curated content that represents the topical issues of the day. We use this as a vehicle also to influence the conversation on ICT policies. We also provide access to our membership, particularly smaller operators and vendors, to international platforms and partners, such as the GSMA, the ITU. We are representative on the WRC conference and represent the perspective of the region. We also, through our partnerships with entities like the GSMA, create training and developmental opportunities for our membership, such as regulatory training and spectrum management training and other things. So again, listening to all of this, it probably seems as if gender affairs isn't necessarily a natural fit. But as I said, in a very organic way, from attending events and just from the perspective of the strong female leadership that exists within our organization, we started to make certain observations and decided that given our presence in the industry, the role we play in the industry, that this was a very critical issue that we needed to take a position on. And from that, we developed different types of programs and activities to give effect to what we consider to be our objective in this space. So we believe that we should foster an environment within the industry that recognizes that women contribute equally to the business ecosystem. And also it's equally important to provide ample opportunities for leadership roles. In terms of creating opportunities, another component, you can't just focus on the females who have pursued qualifications and are either in organizations seeking upward mobility or trying to get into organizations. The conversation also needs to be focused on young girls who, based on how conventional society, down to the type of toys they're sold and the type of cartoons they watch, aren't necessarily pushed into STEM fields, which has probably resulted in the disparity we see in terms of the lack of female representation in these STEM-oriented careers. So we also have equal focus on that aspect of it, where we have programs that are geared towards young girls, young women, trying to encourage them to pursue STEM careers, create that interest, but also ensure that they have the opportunity to participate in STEM careers. How will we organize ourselves to achieve these objectives? I'm proud to say that we formed a committee, our Canto's Women in ICT Committee, a very vibrant committee. Just to pause a bit to explain how Canto works. We are a very small team, and as a nonprofit, we tend to keep organizational costs low, and a lot of our work is achieved through the hard work of our volunteers. We have committees dealing with different aspects of the business, such as event planning, marketing, technology, trends in technology. And this is another committee that we've created. So it is entirely comprised of people who are volunteering their time, which by necessity means that this is something that they're very, very passionate about. This committee has managed to achieve really significant things. Firstly, they contribute heavily always to the agenda of our annual conference in July. What you're seeing on the screen there is the flyer for one of our most successful and popular sessions that we actually had in our 2022 AGM. Now, this was a virtual event due to the pandemic. And of course, it is very challenging to attract an audience with a virtual event, but we certainly succeeded with this event. We had, at the time, our chairwoman of the committee was Wendy McDonald, and she hosted a very vibrant panel, and you can see there the participants with some heavyweights from some of the local telcos in Trinidad, and we were pleased to have among us also Franklin Butler from Cable Bahamas. It was a very vibrant discussion, and we explored the angle of the role and importance of male allyship in supporting gender equity. Another event that we had took place in our in-person event, our first in-person event post-pandemic, which was very well attended in Miami. And we had a session on the future of work, hybrid and remote working, and we explored the implications of new working arrangements for females. Of course, this is an important conversation because I think what came out of that discussion was technology, of course, can be used as a tool to break barriers, to create access to educational opportunities. But then we have to consider that traditionally, a lot of females are still saddled with what you would consider the traditional responsibilities relating to housekeeping, child rearing, and so forth. So when you have a woman trying to do both functions in a hybrid working environment, is that actually healthy from a physical and mental perspective? It was very interesting to hear the men on the panel weigh in on that. And again, they connected this whole discussion to the idea of male allyship as well, where it was important for men to accept not only that there needs to be allyship in the workplace, but there also needs to be increasing levels of allyship in the home so that women can be allowed to, can have the freedom and the time to pursue the opportunities that they deserve. Our Cancian magazine is something I'll touch on a little bit later as well, but it's a quarterly e-publication that Canto is very proud to produce. And the Cancian magazine has been a substantial vehicle for our WICT committee to give a voice to their views. What you're looking at is a screen grab of an article that, again, was very well received by our membership and by the members of the public who weighed in and read it. Again, it was authored by Wendy, who was our then chairperson of the WICT committee, and it explored important issues such as the implications of the COVID pandemic on women and the existing gap. And even though it was written about a year ago, when you read it today, a lot of these issues, unfortunately, are still very relevant, which is a bit of an indictment on all of us probably, because I don't know how much the needle has moved on some of these issues. But I would invite you to read this article. It certainly is very informative.
Speed up a bit.
Sorry?
Speed up a bit.
Okay, sorry. The other initiatives we talked about, we did in Canto was relating to educational opportunities for young persons. Again, we focused on introducing them to things such as coding, website designs, things that would typically fall outside of what the conventional curriculum is in Trinidad and Tobago particularly, and in the wider region. What's our outlook? We want to continue to use these avenues that we have, such as the conference and the Cancian magazine, to explore these topical issues. A very important aspect of the development of women would be their safety online. And as it happens, one of the themes of our upcoming conference will be cybersecurity. So we intend to explore women issues from that perspective. We also believe in the power of data. If we want to influence people within our own organizations or people within the government, that there is an issue, they respond to numbers. So we have commissioned a survey. We're trying to gather data regarding the statistics of the participation of women in the technology industry. And we intend to publish a paper with those findings, and then we will present that to the appropriate policymakers within government. How do you get involved? We need volunteers. We really would love to have you attend our events. You're more than welcome to submit a piece for consideration for publication in our Cancian magazine. You don't have to necessarily be an employee of a telecoms company or any of our membership to join our committee. Anybody can volunteer and join our committee. And of course, we have Canto Conversations, which is a newly introduced event during the pandemic, where it's a series of webinars. And we intend to devote at least 2 of these webinars between now and July to topics on this issue. So it's just a call to action as well to everyone in the listening audience that we would more than welcome your contributions and your participations. Just a quick shameless plug for our conference coming up in July in Miami, where we will continue this conversation. And again, thanks to the CTU for inviting us and including us in this conversation.
Thank you very much, Disha. I think there is a lot there that Canto is involved with to push the gender parity issue, and good to see your call for volunteers and support to carry the initiatives forward. You mentioned STEM generally. When I mentioned 20% women. That was the faculty of engineering. In other STEM areas at the university, the percentage is somewhat better, like in sciences and medicine. We have like between 40 and 50% women. And maybe that is consistent with what Jennifer was saying about it's more challenging in the radio communication sector, which is kind of core engineering type work as opposed to the other sectors of ITU, where you get involvement from, say, the wider range of technical groups. So we'll move on now and bring in our third panelist, who is Dr. Maria Myers-Hamilton, who's going to talk about the opportunities that they maybe have created or are creating in the Spectrum Management Authority. Maria, please.
Thank you so much. And may I share my screen?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone and especially the CTU for this honor to present today at a very important, I think it's a very important day for all of us. And the theme is quite rightly placed. So I would like to just begin very quickly to go into, because I know time is of the essence. Who are we? Spectrum Management Authority. This is our vision, enabling sustainable growth of wireless communications as a regulator through effective regulation and customer-oriented services, which foster social and economic benefits to Jamaica. And our mission is also in tandem with our vision. Just move that out of the way. So this will give you a little bit of a company overview. The Spectrum Management Authority, SMA, was established by the Telecommunications Act of 2000, a limited liability company, which is solely owned by the government of Jamaica. We started our operations in 2001, and prior to that, we actually, or the entity itself was under the telecommunications unit within Post and Telecommunications Department of the ministry. The framework, as it is right now, although there are many different laws and acts that control us, the primary ones, of course, is the Telecommunications Act of 2000, which is dated, and the Radio Telegraph Controls Act of 1973, which is very dated. I'm sure many persons on the call weren't born at this time, but again, we're working very closely with the industry and other stakeholders in ensuring that we are getting in keeping with time. Internationally, of course, we are tied to the HIP, to the ITU radio regs, and of course, the regions, which I'll get into in a few slides later. So our key roles and function: planning the use of spectrum bands, assigning of frequency, licensing the new users with the RF spectrum, monitoring compliance and protecting authorized users, investigations, cases of interference, which can vary, fulfilling the Jamaican international obligations as respect to spectrum management, again, under the guidance of the various organs which we're a party to, and collecting the spectrum fee, most importantly, for the government of Jamaica. And finally, providing advice, and this is technical advice, to the government through our parent ministry on policy and legal issues concerning RF. Now, to the meat of the matter, the SMA's position on gender equity and equality and parity, adopted by the National Policy of 2021. So we actually have this policy from 2011. And with that, this National Policy for Gender Equality, these were the primary objectives. So just very quickly, gender discrimination was something that we wanted to reduce, promote greater gender equity, equality, social justice, strengthening institutional mechanism, mainstreaming gender in culture, social, economic, and political institutions, structures, and system, and finally promoting a sustainable behavior change, which is very, very important, and capacity of public sector entities to develop and implement, monitor gender responsive plans, programs, and policies. So coming on the heels of all of that, I thought this picture was just fantastic. And this was just published last week where we had young women in leadership in Parliament sitting on February 23rd, calling on government to implement national action plan to prioritize gender equity and women empowerment. So this is actually live and direct in Jamaica, where they were sitting with, and that is Minister Babsy Grange in the middle of it all, you know, speaking to the young women in Parliament. So during our journey in terms of all of what we have done things like Girls in ICT Day, some of program employment programs, internship programs, and as well as mentorship programs, both internally and externally. And just to give you a few, we're just touching on a few of things that we've done. This is in 2018, and the picture says 1,000 words. We took over 40 girls from inner city communities around where we are in Jamaica, in the Kingston region, and we carried them, and this was actually a fox hunt. And they have the antenna where they're actually using and trying to find where the signal is coming, and that's in the area of the Emancipation Park in New Kingston, of those who know Jamaica a little bit and know where we are. This is another event in 2019, a very powerful statement where we collaborate with She Leads It hackathon. And we had over, I think it was 150 females participating across Jamaica now, both in the urban and rural areas of Jamaica, where they actually worked on coding at the time, within a space of time, a hackathon. And as you can see, we made that equal sign, and this was just a very powerful statement at the time. Then we look at our summer program since 2006. So far back as 2006, even before that policy was in place, the SMA has put in a summer program in place. And if you notice in the picture, a majority of the persons are female. We have a couple of males, but we have majority of the female persons actually working. And one of the things we want to do is to impact our women, our young women, demonstrating to them that they are more than what they're enough, and they have a role to play in this space of ICT and engineering. Our internship program, we partner with a number of institutions, from UWI to the University of Technology. And as you can see in the picture, we have at the time our minister with us and a number of the persons who were involved with She Leads It. And this one young lady here is actually working with us, Sasha Moipam, who actually was part of the winning team. And here's another young lady who was part of another event we had where we did an EMF audit. She was in the field, you know, testing the levels. If you notice in her hand, she has a device that she's actually checking the EMF level that is in the field, of which we had actually a study done and presented it to industry. So a number of things occurring. This is quite recent. This is actually our summer employment program. We expanded it quite to, I think it was over 40 persons at the time, and it was open to both male and female. Because although we're focusing, to bring in and pull in more women in the sector, we also want to touch on the young men who are at risk. So again, this is at the end of their program. We hosted them at a place where we had a conversation. And this is actually a success story. This is one of our actual mentees and persons who worked with us. Cheyenne actually is a former UTech student, and she worked with us in 2012 in the engineering division. And right now, she's actually a visiting researcher from the Netherlands, and she's working on the European Space Agency program, which is something I think is highly commendable. And she passed through our doors, and she actually speaks about what she did here actually influenced her where she is today. So this is one of our success stories. This was mentioned, and I brought some statistics because I think it's important for us to look at where we are. And other people have spoken on it, and I've pulled some numbers. So if you look at university undergrad programs, pure applied science, tech, engineering, and you see the male to female ratio, you notice the figure here. And then when you move to the graduate program, you see the figure even it's getting a little bit, worse. It's coming down. And then when you go down to the diploma, it's always going down. And then we looked at UWI and also CMU, which is another university, and even Hart. The average there, it's very low for females. So again, we have to work harder. On this. We have to come together and find a way, because there are challenges in the space. And one might argue that, with childbearing, being that center in the middle and to ensure that you keep the family together. When you travel, I know when I travel, it's a little bit challenges, and we have to find that balance as females. So any organization, I think we have to recognize the role of the woman in the home and actually try to manage how she operates and ensure that she gets that best opportunity to move forward and to be successful. So one of the things we're saying, promote gender diversity culture, promote girls towards progress in STEM. All these things were said before, and we are just reinforcing and concurring with it. Assist girls to bridge the gap, give them self-confidence, because if one looks at the curriculum, and I have a daughter, and there are times I know she cannot see the connection, because possibly we're not teaching the STEM subjects in a manner for girls. And not to say that we need to make it feminine, but make it relevant, make it be a way that they understand how it works in their space. Collaborate more with, and again, Canto and a number of other speakers mentioned this about public-private sector engagement. It's very important. And establish quality indicators to guide the change process. Because how will we know success? What we know what success looks like. So it's very important to identify these and to move forward. And this is something that we're committed to. So I'm reaching out. Anyone who wants to join the program with the SMA, here's our contact information. Just reach out to me. In fact, we are in Kingston, the primary location, although we have a secondary site. And again, I would like to thank you all for this special moment to bring my message across. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria. That was very enlightening. I just want to remind our audience members, we'll have limited opportunities for vocal intervention. So please post your questions to any of the panelists or speakers, in fact, in the chat on the Zoom, and we'll deal with them as best we can in the time available. So the last member of the panel to present is Ms. Maria Celeste Fuenmayor from CITEL, and she's going to be telling us about some of the CITEL initiatives. Maria Celeste, are you there?
Thank you, Nayel. Good morning, afternoon for everyone. Thank you for inviting us this morning. I would like to share my presentation with you. If you don't mind, I have access to do so.
Yes. We are seeing it. Oops.
Give me one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are seeing empowering women.
All right. I'm a little kind of blind because I have two screens, so I don't know if he's sharing any other information on the. All right. So you see now moving the presentation.
Right. It's better if you go into presentation mode. Yeah. Right. Very good.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for inviting CITEL to this wonderful event. Congratulations to all women and men that company women to be part of this challenging that we are trying to wrap it up and start this division that we have right now. The Inter-American Telecommunication Commission is an entity of the Organization of American States that is basically specialized in telecommunication and ICT, that was established by General Assembly of the OES in 1993. The function of CITEL is to serve as an organization leading advisory body in all related matters of telecommunications and ICT. Our vision is well defined as the full integration of the American states into the world information society in the digital economy. With a view for sure is the accelerating social, economical, cultural, and environmental sustainable development in the region. As well, looking for the development of our member state using technologies and telecommunication. Our mission is facilitate and promote the integral and sustainable development in interoperable, innovative, reliable telecommunication ICT in the Americas under the principles of universality, equity, and affordability. The structure CITEL is components in one of the main body that is our assembly of CITEL. After that, it's a meeting that we're going to have every 4 years that they lead the Inter-American Forum to promote ongoing development of telecommunication and ICT in the hemisphere. Our permanent executive committee is our board of director body that is considering and taking advantage of recommendation of the General Assemblies of the organization in order to apply in our other technical bodies. The executive secretariat is our administrative body, as well as 2 major groups that we are having in the technical aspect during CITEL's works. One is telecommunication and ICT, called PCC1, and the other one is radio communications, PCC2, that is dealing with all harmonization and spectrum and telecommunication ICT, PCC1, working in all policies and regulation. One of the most important initiatives that CITEL has in order to help our member states and promote the activities and help our member state in development and all areas in the region is one of our major initiatives that is called Alliance. We have 2 major alliances in CITEL, that is the 2030 ICT Alliance for the America and the ICT Rural Women's Alliance. In this alliance, or through this alliance, CITEL has the opportunity and the possibility to help and to reach important peoples in need in our different member states. An example of that is one of our main initiative called Pro Futuro, that is an initiative that is jointly with Telefonica, SEDI, OES, CITEL, Pro Futuro. In this alliance, CITEL has the opportunity through members that are signatory of this alliance, helping a member state to help and advance some projects to helping schools, kids, youth, teachers, and all kids that they are need to have any opportunity to have a better education. The idea through this project is to provide content, provide equipment, and as well as something more important, that has the opportunity to have a digital education and content that are appropriate for each country. Through Telefónica and on this initiative Pro Futuro, we are until now focused on the Caribbean, and in 2021, we are able to enroll more than 6,000 teachers in this initiative, training them as well as kids from 92 schools. So this is an example that what CITEL are doing it right now in order to embrace that the technology is a transversal tool that we can helping to develop in our countries in the most important area, that is the education. I think that we believe the education, it is a component, an important document, that an important component that with the telecommunication ICT is going to be the key for the development of our country. Our Rural Women's Alliance was created in order to provide those digital skills for the women in rural and underserved areas. Through our members as well as member states and our associate member, we create this alliance with the encourage the adoption of specific actions to connect the unconnected and to connect rural areas or underserved areas that it is impossible to have any connectivity in there. So through alternative technologies, helping through other specific technologies, through our alliance, through our members, through a stakeholder, the member state, we create this rural woman, and we are trying to develop digital skill for strengthening the enterprises, strengthening the rural women, and strengthening as well as all the education and digital skills that they need for persons that they are not possible to be in area, or they are impossible to be connected in the regular way that we are now. So through this Rural Alliance is going to be one of the most important initiatives that we have in CITEL, and through Telefónica as well, we're going to have some initiative called Connect to Grow or Conectarse para Crecer, who is an call that we call every year to different countries like Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, calling women that they have his own enterprises in the rural area, so they can be able to apply for resources, advices, and as well as initiatives that are helping her to develop his own business. Gender and youth mainstreaming at the OES, it is not new. In 2000, OES create and have the principal mandate of gender as an Inter-American program of women on human rights, of gender equity and equality. It was adopted in 2000 and create and systematically integrate the gender perspective in the organization. As well as in 2016, our Secretary General implemented the institutional policy of gender and equality, diversity, and human rights and the interior of the OES. This work is made primarily by the Inter-American Commission of Women, that is a specialized organization at the OES, as well as for the areas of for youth and America's Business Trust is one of the non-profit organizations that is part of the OES that promote the economic development for youth people around the world. So we have these big components at the OES that working together with CITEL as well to implement and mainstream these important topics, that is genders and youth. Genders and youth in the perspective in CITEL, it is real, not new, it is not a new concept. CITEL is still working, and part of the CITEL philosophy is to call and embrace women in the world of CITEL. We have wonderful leadership, as an example, Jennifer Manner, an example, Dr. King, that are leaders in the roles of CITEL, leader and our guide and our advisors in all matters of related with women's and youth. They are pioneers, of course, and this is something that we are trying to embrace and trying to talk with young leaders, talk to our newcomers, talk to our beginners in CITEL, that everything is possible, that we have resources to help, and that we have programs that are going to be embraced and empowered and fostering them and youth to continue this endeavor and to continue the work of CITEL. CITEL have a specific mandate through the OES General Assembly resolution, as well as you notice in this slide, CITEL working from 2015 in different initiatives and different plans regarding empowerment youth, create roadmap to development activities and projects that involve leadership, promote women access in ICTs and telecommunications. They have a working group to promote and empower ICTs and telecommunication to empower women, and other initiatives that we are working together with partnerships as well as different organizations inside the OES and outside the OES.
We are short on time, so you need to wrap up shortly.
Thank you. Basically, last December, we created a working group on gender and equality, meaningful youth empowerment in CITEL, that the first mandate is to cross all the activities in CITEL regarding gender and youth. So this is an initiative, a working group that we create to increase the participation, to increase the leadership and be more inclusive in all the activities in CITEL. An example of that is that we are working together with ITU in a different initiative regarding women. As an example is WTDC, the WISE, the Now for WRC that we Jennifer explained very well at the beginning of the event. And also we have two major components that we are developing for 2023. That is CITEL mentoring program, and as well as CITEL for beginners and newcomers. These mentoring programs are aligned with all the activities in CITEL as well as the activities of different PCCs committee. We create resources like a WhatsApp group, webinar, workshops, monthly activities that we like to keeping busy our women and youth in activities regarding technical aspects as well as leadership and negotiation. Other important resources that we have is the videos that we create for the Now WTDC that Dr. Kim Malaliu is our advisor and working hard to put all together the story of many women's leaders in the region and CITEL. In the perspective of youth, we're working with the ITU and the regional office in All Generations Connect activities, different events during the year, Girls in ICT, American Girls Can Code, female leaderships that we provide every year for CITEL member states, CITEL's women's instead.
Okay, we're over time, so you have to make it very quick.
Perfect, and this is going to be our mentoring program for 2023. We already planned some activities that we're going to share with you, and specific courses that we're going to be having the entire year that is available for all of you in CITEL website. This is an important resources that we like to share with you guys. It is scholarship and training programs through the OES, open to everyone. Employment and internship opportunities in CITEL as well as OES. And one important of our resources are at the Educational Portal of the Americas that we provide courses for the entire region with no cost and other through cost. ITU is one of our main resources in activities, in courses and events during the entire year as well. So I would like to thank everyone for the opportunity of CITEL to speak about our initiatives, the activities that we have, and I'll be at your disposal for any more information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria Celeste. for this, and I would ask all who maybe would have had presentation slides, and even anyone else who might have any written remarks, to please share them with us, and we'll probably make them available via the event page on the CTU website. All right, so we are getting into questions and answers now, but before we do so, we want to take the opportunity to basically get a screenshot of the meeting, which we can use for reporting on, social media platforms and so on. Let people know what they missed. So we'll ask that you kindly turn your cameras on so that we can just the presenters, yes. For the presenters to turn their cameras on so that we can get a screenshot. And I see some smiles.
Just one more. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, you all. So now we are getting into the question and answer segment, not too long, and the Secretary General got it going here, asking to no one in particular, are there any specific strategies that you have adopted in your own careers that have helped you to break through the barriers in the ICT sector, like any gender barriers or glass ceilings and so on? Were you on a determined path to break through these barriers, or were you simply pursuing your passion? I saw Dr. Maria put some responses in there,
Yes.
where she talked about the challenges of balancing domestic and professional responsibilities. Maybe I'll ask you to say a few words, Maria.
Sure, thank you for that, Nigel. And yes, it is very challenging as a female and breaking that ceiling. And I won't say how long I've been in the business, but I remember one meeting where I was the only female in the room. And again, one of my coping mechanism was I didn't see gender, and I didn't have it as an issue at the time. I just did my work. And I made my work speak for itself. But as I said before, in terms of balancing, you have to strike that balance, because you're wearing many hats and you have to have support. And nowadays, the extended family, especially in Jamaica, has really disappeared, because in the beginning you had like grandparents, you had aunts, you had sisters to support females who were working, but those are gone. So we now have to find other ways. One of the things that I would love to do at SMA is to put a nursery in place or an after-school care program. So organizations need to look at appropriate structures to support women, because yes, we have children, because yes, their future depends on how well we raise our children, both the males and the females, because we can't do it alone. But having those type of programs in place to scaffold in and to ensure that we don't have to worry about our kids, we don't have to worry about certain aspects. Putting these things in place will promote and support more females coming in, I believe. Thank you for asking, Nigel.
Thank you. I see Jennifer, you wanted to chime in on that?
Yes, thank you so much. I agree with what Maria said, but wanted to take it a little differently, which is putting yourself forward and taking risks. One of the things that I maybe overdo, so you probably want to balance it, is I volunteer for things and I look for areas where I can make a difference and I put myself forward. That doesn't mean you're always selected. And a good example was chairing the network of women for the CTEL region at WRC, and now for WRC 23 was, there's lots of other people who would have been great, but I had the self-confidence to say, I think I can make a difference here. It's something I want to do. I put myself forward and I was selected. But I think but when you're, I would look at things you can do on a day-to-day basis. If I'm in a meeting and one of the leaders is looking for something to be done and I think it's something I can do, I have no problem raising my hand and saying me. And I think that's really important. It takes self-confidence, but people need to, and women in particular, need to have that self-confidence and put yourself forward. And the worst is it's hard, but people want to help people and you can look for help. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, one of the things I learned is that people don't want you to fail. They want they want you to succeed. So don't be bold, as they say. Thais, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes, please. So one of the things I've done in my career so far is taking every opportunity to participate in trainings and mentorship programs. I think this is very important because it creates this courage that we need to put ourselves forward, as Jennifer said. As a good example, I had the opportunity to participate in a training design for delegates to the WTDC last year. It was a brilliant program designed by ITU in partnership with the Australian government. And it created the opportunity for women who never participated in this conference before to be more familiar with the documents, to express themselves in between their peers. So it was a very useful tool to create this courage and try to give the message to those women that yes, they're capable to participate in an equal basis with men, with more experienced delegates. And I think this is a brilliant initiative that needs to be repeated every time possible. So that's one example I'd like to share with you. And I would encourage everyone here to do every training opportunities they have, because it helps a lot. So thanks.
Thanks. Well, I've noticed a couple comments in the chat, one from Dr. Veena Rawat, who says that she's been the only female in her college and career life, and one of her strategies was not to be sensitive to the things you can't change, your gender, your race, age, well, she says age now, since none of that can be changed, but rather focus on the problem at hand, have positive attitude, and work hard, which I think is consistent with some of the other comments that we've heard. And Alison Francis is commenting that some of these jobs that are considered male-oriented come with risks. And this is posing issues because companies say that it's too costly to get the workplace equipped to accommodate females, and that might be appropriate in some undertakings in truth. But it's an interesting point that I think has not yet been raised. But I take note of the time. Our closing time of 1:30, our promised closing time of 1:30 is fast approaching. So I would like to close the panel discussion there and ask my colleague, Ms. Michelle Garcia, Marketing and Communication Specialist here at the CTU Secretariat, to give a vote of thanks. Michelle.
Thank you, Nigel. A pleasant afternoon to everyone. I'm Michelle Garcia, Marketing and Communications Specialist of the CTU. It is my honor to deliver the vote of thanks this afternoon. On this International Women's Day, it is with great pleasure that on behalf of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone present for joining this insightful webinar on empowering women, promoting gender equality, and creating opportunities. The CTU was indeed honored to have such accomplished and esteemed speakers who have contributed immensely in their respective fields to the cause of women empowerment. Secretary General Rodney Taylor, we applaud you for actively playing your role in promoting gender equality in the ICT sector and for ensuring that women are empowered to fulfill their potential. As a matter of fact, this is evident as the gender distribution in the CTU Secretariat team is equal, with an even ratio of men to women. Dr. Kim Malaleo, your valuable contributions have provided us with a better understanding of how to create equal opportunities for women in all spheres of life. Your unwavering dedication in promoting the importance of women's involvement in the information and communications technology, the ICT sector, has not gone unnoticed. We greatly appreciate the insights shared by our featured speaker, Ms. Thais Nifenega, And we all learned so much from her valuable experience. Your recommendations will undoubtedly aid our efforts in promoting greater opportunities for women in the ICT sector. To our esteemed panelists, Ms. Jennifer Manna, Ms. Desha Clifford, Dr. Maria Myers Hamilton, and Ms. Maria Celeste Winmayor, thank you for sharing the initiatives implemented by your respective organizations and for engaging us in thought-provoking discussions. You have provided valuable insights into promoting the gender equality and creating opportunities for women, and shared practical solutions for overcoming the barriers that exist. We all have much to learn from your experience. And to our moderator, Mr. Nigel Casimiro, you've done an excellent job as usual in facilitating and stimulating those thought-provoking discussions, I would also like to commend the organizers for putting together such an incredible event. I believe that the International Women's Day webinar was a great success, which would not have been made possible without the hard work, dedication, and tireless efforts of the organizing team. The Network of Women, who include Dr. Kim Malaleo, Vice Chair of the Network of Women in ITUD, and Ms. Francola John, the CTU Stakeholder Engagement Specialist and the CTU Focal Point for the ITU Network of Women, and to the CTU support staff, Ms. Tracy Aki Raymond, the Secretary General's Executive Assistant, Mr. Richard Fabek, IT Specialist, Ms. Shanae Lewis, Policy Analyst, and Ms. Tamika Campbell-Carter, the Deputy Secretary General's Executive Assistant. We would also like to thank Canto and the Ministry of Digital Transformation for promoting this webinar on their social media and marketing platforms. In closing, I once again express my heartfelt appreciation to all the speakers, participants, and organizers for making this International Women's Day webinar a memorable, insightful, and informative event. Let us continue to work together to promote gender equality and empower women in all aspects of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll give the SG the last word as we close off.
Well, everything has been said that needs to be said. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be enjoying a lunch here at the Secretariat with our women, as Michelle pointed out, which represents 50% of our staff. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.